This is episode 240 of the Super League Pod. And just like the game we all love, we hope this episode has a bit of everything. There's controversy, rivalry, and bias. Well, we are a fan show after all. There's news, oh so much news, where you'll find out which forward signing the felines don't find appealing. We talk expansion, tackle stats, crowd figures, eye drops, and more. Get strapped in, I know I am. It's SLP time. Hello listeners, it's episode 240 of the Super League Pod, and this week you have myself, Mark, and we have David returning. Now, what we have is Wigan versus Saints in the SLP host slots. We're going to have a Wigan Saints game that happened last weekend to talk about, and we've got a Wigan Saints game this weekend coming up to talk about. So rivalries well and truly ignited, David. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hopefully, we'll be gentler with each other than the players are going to be on Friday.
We'll see. We'll see. No, it's really great to have you back. I think when you were on the show earlier this season, it was a popular addition to the show. So thank you for agreeing to come back and talk about the playoffs. Because last time we talked a lot about Saints' regular season, where obviously, over the last few years, Saints have been very successful. Now we get to talk about a part of the season where Saints have been less successful, and that is knockouts against Super League opposition.
Yeah, certainly in most recent times, Mark. That's undeniable, I'm afraid.
So, before we go any further, I do want to let the listeners know that this episode is sponsored by Little Warden. If you have a website, then visit littlewarden.com and see what they can do to help you. They can help you with domain expiration checks, website redirects, and all sorts of other important background web stuff that they'll make simple for you. Little Warden, vital alerts for hidden issues. Okay, on the show today, we've got loads to talk about, actually. I mean, with the season over for many sides, the attention turns to recruitment and retention for loads of teams. So the news is chocker with that. And in fact, every single time that I opened up my web browser this afternoon to do a little bit of looking what was going on in between bits at work, there was someone else signed in some other deal, and it's continued right up until we've started the show. So there's also a little bit of a view into the sideshow that Tonga Rugby League is unfortunately developing into. We're going to cover that in the news as well. Then we've got all your fan views from two close, exciting, and of course controversial Super League playoff games, and all the key results, and looking forward as well to predictions for next week beyond all of that. So we've got loads to get through. Gonna start with a little bit of shout outs to a couple of things that I want to make the listeners aware of. So, Dream Team voting, the SLP Dream Team, that voting is open. David, have you cast your votes yet?
Absolutely, certainly have. I did it while I was at the airport on the way back from my holiday in Italy, Mark. That's
fantastic. I'm sure we'll have some recommendations from your holiday in Italy when we get to that part of the show at the end. I'm looking forward to that. So the voting is open. If you check out our YouTube channel, I actually did some videos breaking down the shortlists for every position, and there's links on there as well, and across other social media platforms as well to the voting form. I did the videos because we got the nice new wall sticker that I mentioned on last week's show, so that's why I did some videos. The season. The awards, the sloppies, the voting for those will be opening a week before the grand final this year. So we're still finalising some of the shortlists on that between me, Sarah, Tim, and Alan. The season review show that we're going to do this year, that's going to be in November. So that's when we'll tell you the winners from the sloppies. That's when we'll tell you the dream team. That's when we'll tell you some of the other things that are going on, and that's where we also want to hear your listener 2-minute audio reviews of your side's season. We want those for that show. David, you'll have been involved in these 2-minute season reviews before in the past.
Yes, I have. I've done one for the last couple of years, Mark.
Yeah, we did something a little bit different last year, I think. We kind of did a off-season focus on all the teams as the off-season went through November and December. But we're going to try and go back to the old format this year. And what we want to be able to do that is listeners of all the Super League sides and beyond. We can work with the ones beyond Super League as well. But if people give a 2-minute review of their fans' view on their team's season, so highs, lows, standout performances, standout players, things to give you optimism for the future, or things to make you dread turning up next February, and that sort of thing. In an audio recording that's a couple of minutes long or so, send them by email to superleaguepod@gmail.com, and we'll put those together for a show that's, like, as I said, will be in November. Now, we're not going to berate people for those. If we don't get enough, then the show's going to be done differently, and it's mostly going to be us telling us how shit all your team seasons. No, but seriously, if you want that show to be a great show, get your fan audio reviews in of that. And if you want more details, hit us up at Super League Pod on Twitter or Instagram, facebook.com/Super League Pod, or of course superleaguepod@gmail.com. And I want to give a shout out as well to a friend of mine who does some other stuff I do with a more Wigan head on, but it's a chap called Matthew Melling. Now, people might know Matthew as the Wigan runner. He's actually approaching this week, and it will be on Friday when Wigan face off against St Helens, that he'll reach this milestone. He's approaching 1,000 days of running 5k or more each day. So he's been doing this for, what does that make it, 3 years nearly, which is absolutely phenomenal and mind-blowing, and the guy's destroyed his knees and ankles in the process, but he's raised tons of money as well for charities and that sort of stuff. If you check out Matthew's social media pages, so if you search for the Wigan Runner on Facebook or on Twitter, you'll get to learn about over £1,000 worth of giveaways that he's doing this week. To be entered into the draw for those giveaways, all you have to do is make a £5 donation to support his charitable cause. Now, his charitable cause is it's a local charity for him in terms of in Wigan, but in the Wigan Youth Zone have facilitated a dodgeball team. I know dodgeball, what the hell? But the Wigan Dodgeball Warriors are actually the second in the world ranked side from the World Championships that they were able to go to a couple of years ago, and they're now trying to raise money to go to this year's World Championships, which is in Egypt, I think it's in Cairo. Anyway, so this is obviously a life-changing opportunity for these kids to go travel far afield, be involved in some fairly serious sporting competition with a lot of fun on the side as well, and they'll be representing the UK, they'll be representing Britain, England, whatever you call it. They'll be representing us in that tournament as well on the world scene. So yeah, if you're interested in getting your hands on some of those thousands of pounds worth of giveaways, do check out the Wigan Runner on Facebook and Twitter, and also just congratulate Matthew on what a fantastic achievement is done.
That sounds good.
That's all for this opening part of the show. Then we're now going to jump into a busy and getting busier every time we refresh Twitter news section of this week's Super League Pod.
So, Warrington's Blake Austin, St Helens' Lachlan Coote, Salford's Jackson Hastings, Castleford's Liam Watts, and Wigan's George Williams are the 5 nominees for the 2019 Steve Prescott Man of Steel Awards.
Yeah, some of the names on that list are not surprising because we obviously saw the voting up until round 21, was it, when they closed down that from the public eyes. So we know that Blake Austin, Jackson Hastings were leading the way at that stage, and Coote and Watts were high up. Obviously, Wigan's strong end to the season has helped push George Williams up in the rankings to get him into that top 5. Where do you want the award to go, and where do you think the award will go, David?
That's a good question. So, first of all, I was personally disappointed that Johnny Lomax wasn't in the list, but not surprised because before it all went dark, he wasn't really in the running, and I'm still not quite sure why. Within the club at Saints, he won the club's own Player of the Year award, the Players' Player of the Year award, and the Fans' Player of the Year award. So
he also won the Albert Goldthorpe medal, that League Express run, which is
no insult to Lachlan, who's had a fabulous season. We've loved watching him play this year, but Certainly from a Saints point of view, Johnny would have been if we'd have had the option, Johnny would have been the person we'd have had on the list from Saints. Personally, I expect Liam Watts to win it. I think Blake Austin's had quite an injury hit end of his season. I think Liam Watts has continued in the sort of form that he's shown pretty consistently throughout the year. And I was hugely impressed with him in last week's game. And actually, of that list, I would also give my vote to Liam Watts as well.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting because in the current conversations in the SLP corners, Liam Watts is not looking like going to be on our 4-man shortlist, but Johnny Lomax undoubtedly is going to be on our shortlist. I think for the SLP Player of the Year when the Sloppy's open in a couple of weeks' time, but. I think Jackson Hastings is the man. I think he's the man of steel in waiting. One thing that he has in his favour, him and George Williams are the only two that's played in every round of the regular season. So those two have played every week this year. And Jackson Hastings, as that listeners of this show will know, is on the stats list pretty much every week. So he has an influence on every single game he plays directly in terms of scoring tries and the exciting stuff that you want to see. So I think, and I would also vote for Jackson Hastings. So it's interesting that we had a few different views there on that one. Okay. Now, the news is kind of chronological-ish, so if people wonder why this one's next, it's not because it's the next biggest, it's because it's the next kind of that happened. Hull KR have accepted captain Joel Tompkins' request to leave the club on compassionate grounds. The 32-year-old joined Rovers in June 2018 and signed a 3-year contract extension in November last year. He made 24 appearances for the Super League club this season as they avoided relegation on points difference only. Tom Andrews, of course, regular Hull KR fan, regular news commenter, got in touch to say, strange one, seemingly out of nowhere, wonder if it was a mutual decision between him and Smith. It wouldn't surprise me to see him head to the south of France for a paid holiday or Salford to be closer to his favourite boozer. Frees some cap up at Hull KR and hopefully a captain that speaks during games other than calling the referee a knob. I sense he's not that disappointed. No,
it doesn't sound it, which is a little bit of a surprise. They're certainly, I mean, obviously they've made at least one big signing the next year, but they've let a few players go, and that back row is going to be under some pressure, I would have thought, next year. But I don't know what the compassionate grounds piece of this is, but hopefully it's nothing too serious for Joel, and obviously hope he finds a new club somewhere soon.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a travelling situation there where his family maybe hadn't moved with him and that sort of stuff. I'm not sure, but I'd guess maybe around that. He's got a young family as well. Maybe they could be slightly isolated if they are out there as well, childcare and so. I don't know. That would be me speculating on that, but I would guess it's family related. He's got young kids, so let's see, and hopefully works out well for him and Hull KR cover that gap. Yeah, you mentioned the big signing. We're not going to talk about Sean Kenny-Dowell this week because me and Tim covered that about 4 weeks ago when the news was first revealed. So I'm not sure why it's only been announced now when we all knew it had happened weeks ago and it was actually reported as having happened weeks ago. But there you go. We'll talk about that another time. Yeah, do you want to tell us about Wakefield because they've been busy?
I will. Yeah, they're very busy. So Ryan Hampshire will leave Wakefield at the end of November after failing to agree a new deal with the club. The utility-back 24 scored 2 tries in the 1910 final round win over London, which kept Trinity in Super League. Chris Anakin, Anthony England, Keegan Hurst, Luke Hooley, Tyler Randall and Lewis Ray will also leave when their contracts expire. Meanwhile, long-serving back row forward Danny Kermond has agreed a new deal to become a player coach from next season. The 33-year-old, who has made more than 150 appearances for Wakefield, will also serve as player performance manager and reserve team coach. So that's a fair old clear out of, to be fair, relatively fringe players at Wakefield.